It's episode 21 of Confessions of a Marketer, and we're talking funding and marketing. I'm Mark Reed Edwards. Welcome back to Confessions of a Marketer. This time I'm talking with Garnet Heraman about all the issues surrounding funding and marketing. We'll get to that discussion in a moment. Next week, we have the return of Ben Afia to chat about cutting the crap in our writing, another deep subject. Lots more to come over the coming weeks, so stay tuned. So, funding and marketing. Garnet Heraman is a renowned investor based in New York. He started his career in marketing, so he has an appreciation for it. I wanted to find out the role marketing should play in securing funding. So I knew he'd be the one to turn to, and let's get to that discussion now. Garnet Heraman, it's great to have you here on Confessions of a Marketer. Welcome.
Thank you.
Early on, it seems like everyone in a company, whether they know it or not, is a marketer. In fact, companies going through the product market fit exercise are doing marketing, even though they might think they're doing some kind of business school exercise. So I guess here's my question. How well formed does marketing have to be early in the life of a company?
So my thoughts on this are fairly conflicted. But I do think at the other end of the conflictedness, there is some clarity. So let me explain what I mean by that. On the one hand, I do believe it's super important to be flexible and to be prepared for discovery and pivots and all the other stuff that people talk about with early stage ventures. And a lot of changes happen between friends and families, seed round and like a proper institutional Series A round. A lot of change.
Sure.
So that's cool. That's one side of the conflict that I feel and sort of experience. The other side is this. I believe that every iota of product development, technology development, should be done with a very keen eye towards the brand messaging that will come out of it.
Right.
By that, I mean, there literally should be a one-to-one correlation between your feature benefit stack, right? What does it do? Why does it do it? How does it do it? And the brand messaging that I'd like to have when it's time for thinking about how do I get this in the hands of the customers.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah. So seeking funding, is a massive marketing effort in itself, right? You're really talking about yourself as a company constantly, and that is a marketing effort. And it may be the most critical marketing a young company does, because if it doesn't do it well, it doesn't survive, right? So for a company seeking funding, when is the right time to bring in a marketer?
And I don't want to be sure I understand the question. So is it when do I bring in a marketer in general for the operations and the sales of our product or offering, or is it when do I bring in a marketer to create the investor collateral?
Well, I guess you could go out and hire a freelancer to do the collateral. I guess what I'm asking is, as a member of the team,
Sure.
When is the right time to bring in a marketer who can be a strategic pillar of the company?
Sure. Okay. So wish list, sort of ideal perspective, and then like the real world perspective.
Sure.
Two takes on this. Wish list perspective is that, you look at a founding team and everyone's background and profiles and resumes and experience base and knowledge base falls into nice, neat verticals. and you have a technical founder, you have a marketing genius, you have I don't know what to call it, a growth hacking or a revenue,
right?
Czar, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
The reality is that teams come together randomly, based on things like, university or an incubator, or, their uncles did business together or their grandparents did whatever. And, what happens in real life then is that basically everyone is sort of I don't know if the term is MacGyver or a jack of all trades or Jill of all trades, trying to be non-sexist in my verbiage. And that's more the reality of what you see. And as not only an investor, but as a mentor, as a coach, as an advisor, compensated or otherwise, the things that I try to do is pretty much elicit the marketing inputs.
Right.
from the folks who seem more inclined or more experienced, from that founding team. It's very rare to actually, in my experience, to see like a really well-rounded team that actually has someone who fits neatly into that marketing vertical.
Right. Right.
So I think, the question you were asking was it more about everyone needing to do marketing stuff, or about when in the cycle do you get it? I wasn't 100% sure, how to wind this one up.
When do you hire a marketer who's part of the strategic team?
Right. And with that specific set of responsibilities. With those two things in mind about how things fall out, wish list versus reality, I would tend to co-locate that with the beginning of sort of customer acquisition. And that could be as early as a paid pilot. It could be, the beginning of actual customer acquisition and onboarding, or just slightly antecedent to that.
Yeah.
And, at a certain point when you finish building a product or a technology or a set of tools or what have you, you kind of need to put your marketing brain on and start thinking about some coherent, plan to get those foundation customers, keep them, and expand.
Yeah.
I would actually co-locate it right around the end of product development, tech development, and the beginning of true customer acquisition.
So do VCs look skeptically at a firm with too much of a marketing operation, or do you look at it and appreciate the effort?
I want to make sure I'm understanding. So is this more about the expenditure or more about the effort?
Yeah.
Because, in early stage companies, you can actually separate the two in some cases.
I guess it's both.
So as an investor, I really tend to be very, very skeptical about spending too much marketing money too soon. That said, one of the most valuable currencies in my world, between zero and a few million in revenue, that weird, wide, brave new world. One of the most interesting currencies is basically novel marketing, right? Tactics and novel customer acquisition tactics. I give you a real world example without naming the company.
Of course. Yeah.
So during 2017, I probably looked at maybe 50 to 60 chatbot companies. Invested in none, actually, but it was very close to investing in this one. And they had gotten pretty far on, maybe 100, 150,000 bucks. They built something, had a team in place. They actually fell somewhat neatly into those verticals, technical, marketing, revenue development, that sort of stuff. And when asked how they had done their foundation marketing to get, the first 1,000 customers, they had come up with this plan where this was a ticketing chatbot. They sold tickets. They automated the process of selling tickets using their chatbot for live events like music.
Mm-hmm.
They had come up with this scheme where basically they were on Craigslist, and they had legitimately bought a couple of tickets to the event that they were trying to use their chatbot, get customers to use their chatbot for. And they represented themselves as selling these tickets. And then in the process of having those dialogues with prospective buyers, they casually noted in the back and forth emails that there was this other service, and it was their service that could help them with these sorts of purchases in the future. So it was just on the legal side of bait and switch. And I, as you can hear in my voice, I had to chuckle over, how cost efficient, for the cost of a couple of tickets, they were, acquiring in some cases hundreds of customers, around these specific events that they had bought tickets for, and sort of recruiting them to their chatbot. I was very, very impressed. And it's that kind of thing that I think everyone in my position as investors can really appreciate, because it speaks to the, and the fancy term would be capital efficiency, right? How efficiently they're going to use money going forward.
So this question may be related. So when you're evaluating an investment, where do you rank marketing in order of importance? I guess it varies. And I guess it varies based on the stage, the type of company, and all that. But
Yep.
Is it something you think of when you're, with one of these chatbot investments? Did you think, well, how the heck are they going to market it? Or, oh, that's how they're marketing it?
Yeah, no, it's a little bit of both. And I'm glad you did that segmentation by round. So, friends and family all the way up to seed rounds. I personally don't spend a lot of time analyzing, the potential value or the efficacy of a marketing regime, except to the extent that it's intuitive to me anyway, as an outsider, that they've done that matching effort between the actual product development and then the brand messaging that they'd like to achieve eventually, right? And in the best of all worlds, they've created something. They've spent their hard-earned money, or their parents' hard-earned money, or someone else's hard-earned money on, building something that actually speaks immediately, innately, intuitively to that brand messaging that they're going to achieve eventually. That would be great. Later on, as you approach like a late seed or a seed extension, and you're getting closer and closer to Series A, I think it becomes very, very important. And it becomes very important for, I would argue, in order of priority for two reasons. Well, one is about that brand messaging. And if you're not getting a good sense that these folks know their brand messaging and know the brand story and the key elements that they want to tell as you approach Series A, that's not really a good thing.
Right.
It's not. It's not that it's not fixable, but it's not really a good thing. And then obviously the super important piece is going to be about the presence of some sort of marketing framework that speaks to customer acquisition, onboarding, long-term customer value, right? I would argue that that's actually why I rank them in order of branding and customer acquisition. I would argue customer acquisition is actually a little bit more mechanical and therefore a little bit more fixable. If you screw up your brand messaging,
right,
that's just not good.
All right, I think we've covered marketing. How about leaving a few pieces of advice for companies looking to go get funding?
Sure. It's going to be very non-technical and actually, in a very real sense, not really marketing focused. So my overwhelming advice after 25 years of doing this is to find the balance in your human relationships between being coachable, because there are a lot of people out here in first or second companies, and they're pretty inexperienced in some ways. So being coachable to the folks around you who are, either advisors, mentors, investors,
right, without
losing your sense of decisiveness. Because I do believe that, entrepreneurs are breed apart, and, they need to be able to be true to their guts and their instincts and to, maybe, learn by doing and learn by failing, learn by succeeding. So I think it's, my advice is to find that balance between coachability and, stubborn entrepreneur decisiveness.
That's great advice. Hey, this was a really interesting discussion, interesting perspective on marketing in the world of kind of getting money. And I really appreciate you being a guest here on Confessions of a Marketer, Garnet.
Hey, thanks so much. I really appreciate being on it. This is a fun dialogue, and I'm excited to be part of it.
Great distillation of the issues from Garnet. I really want to thank him for being my guest. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Next time, Ben Afia on cutting the crap in marketing. Lots more to come as well, so stay tuned. This episode of Confessions of a Marketer was written, produced, and edited by yours truly. T. Jordan of A-Class Productions wrote the theme music. Confessions of a Marketer is a trademark of Reed Edwards Global Inc., and this episode is copyright 2018. I'm Mark Reed Edwards. See you next time.